hey there, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world right now. I am so excited to talk with you today because we're going to dive into something that I think is going to completely change the way you learn English. And honestly, when I discovered this method myself, I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this before? So I'm going to share it with you today, and I really hope it helps you as much as it's helped so many of my students. So here's the thing. You've probably been learning English for a while now, right? Maybe you've been studying grammar rules, maybe you've been doing those exercises in textbooks, maybe you've been watching English movies with subtitles, and all of that is great. I'm not saying any of that is bad, but have you ever noticed that when you actually need to speak English in real life, like when you're ordering coffee or trying to have a conversation with someone, your mind just goes blank? Like you know the words, you know the grammar, but somehow it just doesn't come out naturally. You're standing there and you're thinking, wait, how do I say this? And by the time you figure it out, the moment has already passed. I see this all the time with my students, and I used to experience this myself when I was learning other languages. And you know what? It's totally normal. It's frustrating, but it's normal. The reason this happens is because most of us are learning English in a way that doesn't match how we actually use language in real life. We're learning it like it's a subject in school, like math or history, when really language is a skill. It's something you do, not something you just know about. So today, I want to introduce you to a method that's going to help you learn English fast, and I mean really fast, by focusing on real morning sentences. And I know that might sound a little random, like, why morning sentences? What's so special about the morning? But trust me, there's a reason, and I'm going to explain everything. By the end of this episode, you're going to have a clear plan for how to use this method, and you're going to understand why it works so well. All right, so let's start with the basics. Why morning sentences? Well, think about your morning routine. What do you do every single day when you wake up? You probably do a lot of the same things, right? You wake up, maybe you check your phone, you get out of bed, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you make coffee or tea, you eat breakfast, you get dressed, maybe you check the weather. These are things you do every single day without even thinking about them. They're automatic. And that's exactly why morning sentences are so powerful for learning English. Because when you learn the language that describes your daily routine, you're learning language that you're actually going to use. You're not learning random vocabulary that might come up once in a blue moon. You're learning the words and phrases that native speakers use every single day, multiple times a day. And because you're doing these actions every day, you have so many opportunities to practice. Every morning becomes a chance to practice your English. Now here's the really cool part. When you learn language through actions, through things you actually do, your brain creates stronger connections. It's called embodied learning or kinesthetic learning, and there's a ton of research that shows this works incredibly well. When you say, I'm brushing my teeth, while you're actually brushing your teeth, your brain is connecting the English words to the physical action, to the sensation, to the context. And that makes it so much easier to remember. It's not just abstract words on a page anymore. It's real, it's concrete, it's connected to your actual life. So let's talk about how to actually do this. The method is pretty simple, but I'm going to walk you through it step by step because the details really matter. The first thing you need to do is identify your morning routine, and I want you to be really specific here. Don't just think, oh, I wake up and get ready. No, break it down into individual actions. What exactly do you do, in what order? So for example, maybe your morning looks like this. You wake up to your alarm, you turn off the alarm, you lie in bed for a few minutes checking your phone, you finally get out of bed. You go to the bathroom, you use the toilet, you wash your hands, you look at yourself in the mirror, you brush your teeth, you wash your face. You go to the kitchen, you turn on the coffee maker, you wait for the coffee to brew, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, you add milk and sugar, you take the first sip. You feel more awake. You check the weather on your phone, you decide what to wear, you go back to your bedroom, you open your closet, you choose an outfit, you get dressed, you look in the mirror again, and so on. See how detailed that is? That's what I want you to do. Write down every Single small action in your morning routine. And don't worry if your routine is different from this example. Everyone's routine is different, and that's totally fine. The important thing is that you're describing your routine, the things you actually do. Now, once you have your list of actions, the next step is to learn how to say each action in English. And this is where it gets fun because you're going to learn some really useful, natural English. Not textbook English, but the kind of English that native speakers actually use when they're talking about their day. Let me give you some examples. When your alarm goes off in the morning, you might say, "My alarm went off," or "My alarm is ringing," or "I hear my alarm." When you turn it off, you say, "I turn off my alarm," or "I hit the snooze button." That's a really common one. The snooze button is that button you press when you want to sleep for just a few more minutes. Native speakers hit the snooze button all the time, and they talk about it all the time too. When you get out of bed, you can say, "I get out of bed," or "I get up," or "I drag myself out of bed." That last one is more expressive. It means you really don't want to get up, you're really tired, so you have to kind of force yourself. Like, I dragged myself out of bed this morning." That's very natural. When you go to the bathroom, you can say, "I go to the bathroom," or "I use the bathroom," or "I use the restroom." In American English, we often say "I need to use the restroom," especially in public or in polite company. When you're at home, you might just say, "I need to go to the bathroom." And when you're with close friends or family, you might be even more direct and say, "I need to pee." But that's pretty casual, so be careful about when you use that. When you brush your teeth, you say, "I brush my teeth." Pretty straightforward. But you can also say, "I'm brushing my teeth right now," if you're doing it at that moment. Or, "I need to brush my teeth." Or, "I forgot to brush my teeth this morning." See how you can use the same basic phrase in different ways. When you make coffee, there are so many ways to talk about it. I make coffee, I brew coffee, I put on a pot of coffee, I start the coffee maker. I grind the coffee beans, I pour myself a cup of coffee, I grab a coffee, I need my morning coffee. I can't function without my coffee. Coffee is such a big part of American culture, especially in the morning, so there are tons of phrases related to it. When you get dressed, you say, "I get dressed," or "I put on my clothes," or "I throw on some clothes." That last one means you get dressed quickly without thinking too much about it. Like, "I just threw on some clothes and ran out the door." You can also say, "I change into my work clothes," or "I put on my jeans," or "I slip into my dress." Slip into is a nice phrase that means you put on something easily and smoothly, usually something comfortable or elegant. Now, here's where the magic happens. Once you know how to say these actions in English, you start narrating your morning routine out loud in English every single day. And I mean every single day. This is your daily English practice, and it only takes a few minutes. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up and your alarm goes off, you say out loud, "My alarm is going off. I need to turn it off." Okay, I'm turning off my alarm. Now I'm going to get out of bed. All right, I'm getting out of bed. I'm walking to the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom now. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm brushing my teeth. Okay, now I'm washing my face. The water is cold. It feels refreshing. Now I'm going to the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. I'm making coffee. I'm turning on the coffee maker. The coffee is brewing. I can smell the coffee. It smells amazing. Now I'm pouring myself a cup. I'm adding a little milk. Okay, I'm taking a sip. That's good. Now I feel more awake. See what I'm doing here? I'm describing everything as it happens in real time. And yes, it might feel a little weird at first. You might feel silly talking to yourself. But here's the thing, nobody else has to hear you. You can do this quietly if you live with other people, or you can do it in your head if that feels more comfortable, although saying it out loud is definitely better because it helps you practice pronunciation and builds muscle memory in your mouth and throat. And the beauty of this method is that you're getting so much practice without even setting aside extra study time. You're not sitting at a desk with a textbook. You're just living your life and describing it in English. You're learning English while you brush your teeth, while you make coffee, while you get dressed. It's learning that fits into your life, not learning that takes over your life. Now, after you've been doing this for a few days, you're going to notice something. The sentences are going to start coming more easily. You won't have to think as hard about what to say. The words will just flow, and that's because you're building fluency. Fluency isn't about knowing every word in the dictionary. Fluency is about being able to use the words you know quickly and naturally without having to translate in your head. And that's exactly what this method builds. But we're not stopping there. Once you're comfortable narrating your present actions, we're going to level up. The next step is to describe your routine in different tenses. This is where you really start to master English grammar, but in a natural way, not through boring drills. So in the evening, before you go to bed, you're going to review your morning in the past tense. You're going to say, "This morning, my alarm went off at 7. I turned it off and got out of bed. I went to the bathroom and brushed my teeth. Then I went to the kitchen and made coffee. I poured myself a cup and added some milk. I took a sip and it was really good. After that, I got dressed and checked the weather. It was supposed to be sunny today." Notice how I'm using the past tense? Went, turned, got, made, poured, took, was. These are all past tense forms, and you're practicing them by describing something you actually did. This is so much more effective than just memorizing verb tables. You're using the verbs in context, in sentences that are meaningful to you. And then, in the evening, you can also practice the future tense by planning your next morning. You can say, "Tomorrow morning, my alarm is going to go off at 7. I'm going to turn it off and get out of bed right away. I'm not going to hit the snooze button. I'm going to go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. Then I'm going to make coffee. I think I'm going to have toast for breakfast tomorrow. After breakfast, I'm going to get dressed and maybe I'll wear my blue shirt." See, now you're practicing going to and will for future actions. And again, you're not just practicing random sentences. You're practicing sentences about your real life, about things you're actually going to do. You can also practice the present perfect tense. That's the have plus past participle form, which is really common in English but can be tricky for learners. So you might say, "I've already brushed my teeth this morning. I haven't made my bed yet. I've drunk 2 cups of coffee today. Have you eaten breakfast yet?" The present perfect is used to talk about actions that happened at an unspecified time in the past, or actions that started in the past and continue to the present, or actions you've just completed. And when you practice it with your real daily activities, it starts to make so much more sense. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, "Okay, this sounds great, but I don't know if my pronunciation is correct. I don't know if I'm saying things the right way." And that's a totally valid concern. So here's what I recommend. First, use resources to check pronunciation. You can use online dictionaries that have audio, like Cambridge Dictionary or Merriam-Webster. You can use Google Translate. Just type in a word or phrase and click the speaker icon to hear how it's pronounced. You can use language learning apps like Forvo, where you can hear native speakers pronounce words. But here's my favorite tip. Record yourself. Use the voice recorder on your phone and record yourself narrating your morning routine. Then listen back to it. This is going to feel uncomfortable at first, I'm not going to lie. Most people don't like hearing their own voice, but it's incredibly helpful. When you listen back, you can catch mistakes, you can hear where you're hesitating, you can notice patterns in your speech. And over time, you'll hear yourself improving, which is super motivating. You can also share your recordings with a teacher or a language exchange partner if you have one. But honestly, even just recording yourself and listening back is valuable on its own. Another thing you can do is listen to native speakers describing their morning routines. There are tons of videos on YouTube where English speakers talk about their morning routines. Watch a few of those, pay attention to the phrases they use, the way they pronounce things, the rhythm and intonation of their speech. Then try to mimic that. Imitation is one of the best ways to improve your accent and your fluency. Now let's talk about expanding beyond just your morning routine. Once you've mastered your morning sentences, and I mean really mastered them, to the point where you can narrate your entire morning without hesitation, you can apply this same method to other parts of your day. You can describe your commute to work or school. You can describe your work tasks or your classes. You can describe making dinner. You can describe your evening routine. You can describe your weekend activities. The principle is the same. You describe what you're actually doing in English as you're doing it. And over time, you build up a huge vocabulary of practical, useful English that covers your entire life. Let me give you some examples from other parts of the day. For your commute, you might say, I'm leaving the house now. I'm locking the door. I'm walking to the bus stop. Here comes the bus. I'm getting on the bus. I'm tapping my card. I'm finding a seat. I'm sitting down. I'm looking out the window. We're passing by the park. There's traffic today. The bus is moving slowly. I'm listening to music on my headphones. We're arriving at my stop. I'm getting off the bus. I'm walking to the office now. For cooking dinner, you might say, I'm going to make pasta tonight. First, I need to boil water. I'm filling a pot with water. I'm putting the pot on the stove. I'm turning on the stove. Now I'm waiting for the water to boil. While I'm waiting, I'm going to chop some vegetables. I'm taking out a cutting board. I'm getting a knife. I'm chopping an onion. The onion is making my eyes water. Now I'm chopping some garlic. Okay, the water is boiling. I'm adding salt to the water. Now I'm adding the pasta. I'm stirring the pasta so it doesn't stick. I'm setting a timer for 10 minutes. See how natural and detailed that is? You're learning so much vocabulary. You're learning verbs like boil, chop, stir, add. You're learning nouns like pot, stove, cutting board, knife. You're learning how to describe processes and sequences. And you're learning it all in context, which means you're much more likely to remember it. Now I want to talk about something really important: consistency. This method only works if you do it consistently. And I know, everyone talks about consistency, and it can feel overwhelming. But here's the thing. With this method, consistency is actually pretty easy because it's built into your routine. You're not asking yourself to find an extra hour every day to study. You're just asking yourself to narrate what you're already doing, which adds maybe 5 or 10 minutes to your morning. The key is to make it a habit. And the best way to make something a habit is to attach it to something you already do every day. So attach your English narration to your morning routine. As soon as you wake up, start narrating. Make it as automatic as brushing your teeth. In fact, let brushing your teeth be your cue. As soon as you pick up your toothbrush, start narrating in English. And here's a little trick. Put a sticky note on your bathroom mirror that says, "Narrate in English," or set a reminder on your phone, whatever it takes to help you. Remember in those first few weeks until it becomes automatic. Another tip for building consistency is to start small. Don't try to narrate your entire 2-hour morning routine on day one. That's going to feel overwhelming and you're probably going to give up. Instead, start with just 5 minutes. Narrate the first 5 minutes of your morning. That's it. Just waking up, turning off your alarm, getting out of bed, and going to the bathroom. Do that for a week. Then add the next 5 minutes. Then the next. Gradually build up until you're narrating your whole routine. And be kind to yourself. Some days you're going to forget. Some days you're going to be running late and you're not going to have time. That's okay. That's life. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just start again the next day. Progress is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent over time. Now let me share some success stories because I think this will really inspire you. I have a student named Maria. She's from Brazil, and when she started working with me, she had been studying English for years, but she was so frustrated because she couldn't speak fluently. She knew a lot of vocabulary, she understood grammar, but when she tried to speak, she would freeze up. Everything would just disappear from her mind. So I introduced her to this morning routine method, and at first she was skeptical. She was like, "How is talking about brushing my teeth going to help me speak English?" But she trusted me and she tried it. And after just 2 weeks, she sent me a message saying she couldn't believe the difference. She said that English was starting to feel natural to her. She wasn't translating in her head anymore, at least not for basic daily activities. The words were just coming to her. And then after about a month, she told me that this was carrying over into other areas. She was finding it easier to speak English at work, in meetings, in conversations with colleagues. Because she had built up this foundation of fluency with her morning routine, her brain was now more comfortable producing English in general. It was like she had unlocked something. And Maria is not unique. I've seen this happen with so many students. There's something about practicing English in the context of your real life that just makes it click in a way that textbook learning never does. I have another student named Kenji from Japan, and he had a different challenge. He could speak English okay, but he had a very limited vocabulary for everyday things. He knew business English because he used English at work, but when it came to talking about cooking or cleaning or personal care or just normal life stuff, he didn't have the words. And that made it really hard for him to have casual conversations with native English speakers, because so much of casual conversation is about daily life. So we worked on expanding his vocabulary through this routine narration method. We started with his morning routine, then his cooking routine, then other daily activities. And within a couple of months, his vocabulary had exploded. He was using all these natural, colloquial phrases that you don't find in textbooks. And he told me that his conversations with his American colleagues became so much more natural and enjoyable because now he could actually talk about normal stuff, not just work stuff. So I really encourage you to trust this process. It might seem simple, maybe even too simple, but simple methods are often the most effective. And this method is based on solid language learning principles. You're getting repetition, you're getting context, you're getting embodied learning, you're getting relevant vocabulary, you're getting daily practice. All of these things are proven to help you learn a language faster and more effectively. Now let me give you a few more tips to make this method even more powerful. First, as you're narrating, try to add details and descriptions. Don't just say, "I'm making coffee." Say, "I'm making coffee. I'm using my favorite blue mug. The coffee smells amazing. It's a dark roast. I'm adding just a little bit of cream. I like my coffee light and sweet. The first sip is always the best. This coffee really helps me wake up." See how much richer that is? You're learning adjectives like favorite, blue, dark, light, sweet. You're learning how to express preferences. You're learning how to describe sensory experiences. This kind of detailed narration is going to boost your vocabulary so much faster. Second, try to vary your sentence structures. Don't just use simple present tense sentences all the time. Mix it up. Use the present continuous for actions in progress. I'm brushing my teeth. Use the present simple for habits. I brush my teeth twice a day. Use modals. I should make my bed. I need to drink more water. I might have oatmeal for breakfast. Use conditionals. If I don't drink coffee, I feel tired all day. This variety is going to make you a much more flexible speaker. Third, talk about your feelings and thoughts, not just your actions. Don't just say, "I'm getting out of bed." Say, "I'm getting out of bed, but I'm still really tired. I don't want to get up. I wish I could sleep longer." Or, "I'm getting out of bed. I feel energized today. I'm ready to start my day." This kind of emotional expression is a huge part of natural conversation, and it's going to make your English sound so much more authentic. Fourth, use this method to learn phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are those 2 or 3 word verbs like get up, turn on, put on, take off, and they're everywhere in English, especially in casual spoken English. But they can be really tricky for learners because the meaning isn't always obvious from the individual words. The great thing is, your daily routine is full of phrasal verbs. I wake up. I get up. I turn on the coffee maker. I turn off the alarm. I put on my clothes. I take off my pajamas. I clean up the kitchen. I throw away the trash. When you learn these phrasal verbs in the context of your routine, they're so much easier to remember and use. Fifth, once you're comfortable narrating, try asking yourself questions and answering them. This is great practice for conversations. So you might say, "What time did I wake up today? I woke up at 7. Did I hit the snooze button? Yes, I hit it twice. What did I have for breakfast? I had toast and eggs. How was the coffee? The coffee was great." This question and answer format is going to prepare you for real conversations where you need to respond to questions quickly. And sixth, use this method to practice pronunciation of difficult sounds. If you struggle with a particular sound, like the TH sound or the R sound or the L sound, make sure you're paying attention when you narrate words with those sounds. So if you struggle with TH, really focus when you say, "I'm brushing my teeth," or "I'm going to the bathroom," or "I think I'll have breakfast now." Repeat it a few times. Record yourself and listen back. This targeted practice within your narration routine can really help you improve specific pronunciation issues. All right, so let's talk about how to measure your progress, because it's important to see that you're improving, otherwise it's easy to get discouraged. With this method, progress can be really obvious. After the first week, you should notice that you're hesitating less when you narrate. The words are coming more quickly. After the first month, you should find that you can narrate your entire routine without stopping to think, and you might even find yourself automatically narrating in English without having to remind yourself. After 3 months, you should notice that your English fluency has improved in other areas of your life too, not just when you're narrating your routine. You can also track your progress by recording yourself once a week. Record yourself narrating your morning routine every Friday, for example, and save those recordings. Then after a month, go back and listen to your first recording and your most recent recording. I promise you, you'll hear a big difference. Your pronunciation will be clearer, your pace will be more natural, your vocabulary will be richer, your confidence will be stronger. It's going to be really motivating to hear how much you've improved. Another way to see progress is to try using your English in a real conversation. If you have English-speaking friends or colleagues, try having a conversation with them and notice if it feels easier than it used to. If you do language exchanges online, notice if you're speaking more fluently. If you travel to an English-speaking country, notice if you can communicate more easily than before. Real-world usage is the ultimate test, and that's where you'll really see the benefits of this method. Before we wrap up, I want to address a question that I get asked a lot. What if I make mistakes? What if I'm saying things wrong? And here's my answer. Mistakes are part of learning. Every single language learner makes mistakes. Native speakers make mistakes too, by the way. Don't let the fear of making mistakes stop you from practicing. The important thing is that you're using the language, you're building fluency, you're building confidence. That said, it's good to check your accuracy from time to time. So here's what I recommend. Every week or two, take one of your narrations and check it with a teacher or a native speaker, or even with an AI tool like ChatGPT. You can write out your narration and ask, is this correct? Are there any mistakes? How would a native speaker say this? And then you can learn from that feedback and incorporate corrections into your next narrations. But don't let perfectionism paralyze you. It's better to practice imperfectly every day than to not practice at all because you're worried about making mistakes. Fluency first, accuracy will follow. All right, we're coming to the end of our time together, and I want to leave you with some action steps. Here's exactly what I want you to do after you finish listening to this. First, take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone and write down your morning routine in detail. Every single action in order. Second, look up any words or phrases you don't know how to say in English. Use a dictionary, use Google, use a translation app, whatever you need. Third, practice narrating your routine out loud a few times right now, just to get comfortable with it. And fourth, commit to doing this every morning for the next 7 days. Just 7 days. That's all I'm asking. Give this method 1 week and see what happens. And I really encourage you to stick with it because I genuinely believe this method can transform your English. It's not flashy, it's not complicated, but it works. It works because it's practical, it's consistent, it's relevant to your life, and it builds real fluency. Learning English doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming thing where you're spending hours at a desk with grammar books. It can be simple, it can be natural, it can fit into your life. And when you learn English through your real daily experiences, it stops being this foreign thing that you're trying to memorize, and it becomes a tool that you actually use, that you actually live in. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope this was helpful. I hope you feel excited and motivated to try this method. Remember, every expert speaker started as a beginner. Everyone who's fluent now was once in your shoes, struggling to find the right words, nervous about making mistakes. The difference between people who become fluent and people who stay stuck is just practice and consistency. You can do this. I believe in you. All right, that's it for today. Go narrate your morning routine. Make it a habit. Watch your English improve day by day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.